Find the sign, positive or negative, then evaluate. So let's look at each number one at a time, figure out what their sign is, and then figure out the overall sign. So the first number is a negative number. It's a negative over a positive, that works out to be negative. The next one is a positive over a negative. Overall, that's a negative. If it was a negative over a negative, then it would be positive. Otherwise, when there's one negative sign in a fraction, no matter if it's at the top, the bottom, out in front, it's a negative number. And then finally, it's divided by a negative number. A negative times a negative divided by a negative. Well, the first two work out to be a positive, because a negative times a negative is a positive, and then we divide by a negative. A positive and a negative gives us a negative. So overall, this whole question will end up with a negative number. Now let's figure out what that number will be. It's a good idea to do some rewriting to make this look like something we can deal with. So, negative 2 over 5 is looking pretty good. We usually don't write our negatives in the denominator, so let's pull that up to the top. Now what about this last number? When we have a fraction and a fraction, we probably want to keep working in fractions, so let's convert this to a fraction. You know what, we are wasting a little bit of time here. We said that this was overall going to be a negative. So let's not bother with any of our negative signs. And the whole thing at the end of the day is going to be a negative number. That helps. So we have 2/10. 2/10. We can reduce this. 2 goes into the top twice, so that can become 1. 2 goes in the bottom 5 times. This is going to be 1/5. Okay, so we have a negative 2/5 times 4/3. Well, let's actually do that on this step. When we multiply fractions, we multiply the numerator and we multiply the denominator. 2 times 4 is 8. And now the denominator, 5 times 3 is 15. And this whole thing is going to be divided by 1/5. When we divide by a fraction, we flip and multiply. Now before we do that, let's try to reduce. It'll make our multiplication easier. I don't like doing big numbers if I don't have to. So I see that 8 and 1, 8 and 15, those things can't really be reduced, but I see that there's a multiple of 5 in the 15 and a multiple of 5 in the 5. So 5 goes into 5 one time, 5 goes into 15 3 times, and now this is going to be much easier. 8 over 3 times 1 over 1. Wow, that is very simple. So we look back to our original question. We said we expected it to be negative, so we've got that. And we have our final answer. The question asked us to evaluate. We did indeed evaluate. Is there anything to reduce? No, there's not. So we are done.